Hello everyone and welcome to the Great Guild Wars 2 Countdown. There are a whopping 16 or 13 days remaining, depending on if you've pre-purchased, till the launch of Guild Wars 2. The footage in the background for today comes from Bikani Miyarachi, so thank you very much to them, and I'm sorry for butchering your name, as I no doubt have. For new stuff, first of all, there's going to be a stress test today, so this is probably quite an inopportune moment for me to upload this video, considering the stress test is only 1 hour long, and it's probably going to be live around the time as this goes up. So if you are watching this and you weren't aware, try and log into Guild Wars 2. You might be able to get in. It does only last for an hour though, so you'll probably want to think of something to do before you actually go in, and do go in fully expecting that you might not be able to log on at all or anything like that. I mean, the fact it's just an hour does hopefully mean, I guess, ArenaNet are trying to cram as many people as they possibly can into one really short window. I think where it's such a short period of time though, and how a lot of us are aware of that, and how bad the lag could get, it's probably going to turn a fair few people off. So I don't know what the stress test will be like, but do expect there to be issues, and because it's not lasting for very long, I would just caution that it might come to pass that you just don't get to play it at all. But do try it anyway. I'm going to certainly try and get in the stress test and see what I can do. So yeah, that's going on. That's probably the biggest bit of news that I've really got. However, I did see something kind of cool. There was an interview with Digital Gladium, who actually contacted me a long time ago, and I was actually offered to join them a long time ago. But they did an interview recently about all kinds of different things, and one of the particular things that I saw that was quite interesting that they gave in one of their answers was they asked about different types of competitive PvP and different types of modes, and ArenaNet actually talked a little bit about, through the development process before they settled on Conquest, what they actually tried and toyed with. And apparently they said, and I quote, "We worked on almost 10 different game modes, including Capture the Flag," which I love by the way, Deathmatch, and a 2-track golem map where teams tried to push their own golem to the finish line. I guess that the last one's a bit like TF2, which I thought was really kind of interesting, and I believe they did say that they are somewhat open to the idea of having other modes as well going after launch, which is interesting. But they did say Conquest was the most fun they found, and I respect them for actually focusing on one mode and hopefully making that the predominant thing and actually getting all the kinks worked out of one mode rather than having loads. The other thing as well, someone was talking to me through personal messages about 32-bit and 64-bit operating systems and how that affects Guild Wars 2. Actually, apparently if you're on a 32-bit OS, it does lock you out from playing on the highest graphics settings that Guild Wars 2 has to offer, which is interesting to me. So they have locked out certain things. How extensive or what big of a difference it is, I hold my hands up, I don't know for sure, but it is interesting that you won't get everything. You won't get the full maxed out experience, even if you're on a godly computer, if you're on a 32-bit OS. I mean, it's only natural that we're all going to be swapping over to 64-bit OSs over the next few years anyway. But yeah, do bear that in mind, that you are locked out of some stuff, which is interesting. The feature for today, something that kind of blew my mind. I was browsing Reddit earlier and saw this, and it's pretty crazy. I didn't know about this, but it's friggin' amazing. It's one of those little detail things. When you send someone a mail in the game, so we all know we've got the mail system. You can use it to message people and send your goods one way, and you know, it's all very useful for all these things. Actually, when you get a mail, there is a little effect, you might have noticed it, that appears on screen, where a pigeon actually flies across your screen to your character, delivers you the mail, and then flies off. That actually does appear on there, and somebody put up a video as well of this happening in action. It's so cool. So I never even noticed it, but the idea is actually that there are pigeons sending these mails, little birds that fly around to you. It works underwater as well, and apparently it will just be swimming around down there. And the best thing about it as well is it's just not some shader that's applied to your screen or some effect that's just put there that only you get to see when you get a mail. It's actually a real thing that flies around in the world, and that means if your friend gets a mail or someone around you gets a mail, you will see a bird go and deliver it to them as well and then fly off. It's a really small, little, cool, tiny little feature or effect that you might not have noticed, but it's actually so awesome. So yeah, I thought that was a brilliant little thing that they added to the mail system. I don't know how long it's been there. If it's always been there and I've simply not noticed it, then I feel a bit bad. But yeah, really, really cool. These little birds actually deliver the mail. Who would have thunk it? Anyway, on to the questions for today. The first one's a bit of a... I don't usually like to pick questions like this, but I felt like I had to address it at some point. It comes from Rylair679, who says, in Guild Wars 2, the PvP feels rather pointless. Sure, you can get cool looking gear that does absolutely nothing for your character outside of the mists, and you can get great enhancements for your realm. My question is, what is the lore behind the World vs. World Battlegrounds and the SPVP? I'm a hardcore PvPer, and while the PvP in Guild Wars 2 is great, it all seems like it's just for fun. I was pretty disappointed myself that there would not be any actual guild warfare type setup. I think you're talking about two different things here. First, we'll address the guild warfare type setup, but that's really got nothing to do with what the point ranked to PvPers. But yes, this is something a lot of people talk about, and it would have been nice to have some kind of GVG there for Guild Wars 2. But I would say one thing on that regard: if what you really enjoyed about that feature was that you could have your friends and those in your guild, and you could be fighting alongside one another against other guilds, that is still very much there and alive in game through World versus World. In fact, it's going to be better in Guild Wars 2. That particular aspect of GVG, at the very least, is probably going to be better in Guild Wars 2 than it ever was in Guild Wars 1, because you have far more impact now in that you can actually claim a location for your guild, and your guild can be responsible for defending it against other guilds that come up. It's actually a lot more impactful and cool, really. It takes kind of this idea of being able to claim outposts and stuff in Guild Wars 1 and actually puts it into a PvP scenario, which I really, really, really like. So if that was what you really enjoyed about GVG, that's still very much there. Obviously, there was a lot more to GVG, though. It was a very, very strong competitive format for PvP. It had a very high skill ceiling, and it was also very difficult and hard to get into, which is the main reason why ArenaNet get rid of it, because they felt like it was too hard to break into for new players, particularly as the game aged. That was the main reason they got rid of it. And that is a bit of a shame that it's not there. I would very much agree. I was never that much into GVG when I played Guild Wars 1, so I was one of those people in that camp that I wanted to play it, but I never managed to really get into it because it was so hard to learn everything, and there weren't many guilds out there accommodating of bringing new people in, and those that were tended to have dramatically subpar teams that couldn't really be competitive in the first place. And I was in that camp, so I appreciate how much people liked Guild versus Guild, but I think that a lot of people also understand why it's not there. Now we have Conquest that hopefully will be appealing for people to actually get in. It's something easier to get into for a start, just because you only need 4 teammates instead of 7. I mean, that immediately helps people out dramatically, but also hopefully does have the same kind of skill ceiling as Guild versus Guild did, but whether that's true remains to be seen. But all this other stuff you're talking about with this particular line here, do you realise what you're saying? While the PvP in Guild Wars 2 is great, it all seems like it's just for fun. I think if you find yourself saying something like this, you have to back up a step and ask yourself, why am I playing a video game? What am I getting out of a video game? Hopefully, you're playing a video game to have fun. So, if a game type in the game is just fun, is that a flaw? No, I don't think so. I don't think there needs to be some long-term or impact or consequence of everything that you're doing in the game. If it's fun on its own and it stands on its own as being fun, instead of giving people some kind of treadmill or some external reward to keep people playing, then that's fine. If it's fun without all that stuff, I'd say it's probably a stronger aspect of the game than something that's relying on giving people buffs and extra stats and +1s to this and +1s to that for playing lots. It's actually, that is the mark of something being very good. If you're playing a game and saying, oh, well, I'm having fun, but I'm not getting anything more out of it, then maybe you just don't want to be playing a video game. Maybe you want to go do something productive outside. That's what I'd say to you there. I see this all the time with people just saying, oh, what am I supposed to get? What's my reward for this? What's the point in doing this? What's the point in doing this? Why would I come to do this jumping puzzle? Why would I go here? Yeah, this is cool. It's a nice little site, but what's the point of it? Because it's fun. The buck stops there. You're playing a game to have fun, and if the game is providing you with that, then that's all it needs to do. It doesn't have to do anything more. I read this question and I thought, oh my god, yes, the PvP is great, but it's only fun. It's a paradox. If you're having fun, then leave it there. That's a good thing. Anyway, the next question is from NVRNSQR1. This is a question I've got quite a lot recently. Sadly, there's not too much to say on it, but I have had a fair few people asking me the same thing. So we have banks now in Guild Wars 2. Great, is it not? Even so, where are the Zunalai, do you think? I mean, they were based in Cantha, but being cut off from the rest of the world wouldn't cause them to suddenly disappear, would it? Unless I'm missing something, I wonder why the replacement. Well, you say this, but I believe that is the story they're pushing forward. For anybody who isn't aware of what the Zunalai are, in Guild Wars 1, your storage system, you had banks, just like in Guild Wars 2. Pretty much every outpost in the game, in fact, every single one, I don't think there was one that didn't have, had a storage account there. It had a chest, this magical chest that you could put your stuff in, and you'd be able to retrieve items from it anywhere else in the world, wherever these things were. And there was a guild, a Canthan guild, called the Zunalai, and these guys ran this service. And if you went to Cantha and you went to Kaineng Center, which is like the main town outpost within the entire city in Cantha, if you went there, you could find there was like this huge walled off area there with tons and tons of Zunalai chests all over the place, and a really big glowing Zunalai chest in the middle. And the idea was that was where all the items came to, and then the Zunalai sorted them into other things for you. It was this cool idea of this guild that were running all of the storage, and it went everywhere, even when it was expansive enough to go into the realm of Torment and stuff, where the chests were there, but the agents themselves couldn't survive, so they weren't there themselves. Really, really cool, all over the place, and this guild really was quite significant in lore, therefore, because it just covered so much. It covered everywhere we'd found, not just human territory, but Norn territory, everywhere possibly we could have seen. They had got their chest there, and they had expanded all around the world, but they were based in Cantha, so it might seem weird that they were so big and so extensive that now in Guild Wars 2 they're not around, but they were based in Cantha. That is where their main chest room was, that is where all of their stuff presumably they worked with was located, and now that that is cut off and now so much is going on with Cantha, then yeah, I can see why now it might have collapsed and we've got different people running the banks and stuff for Guild Wars 2. The other thing that I like to consider is that maybe the Jinalai simply don't want to be providing the service to everyone that's not a Canthan anymore. We've heard about how xenophobic they've all become there, or at least the leaders there have become, and how protective and how inward all of Cantha has become, and this mentality probably permeates through their society somewhat. And I quite like the idea that, yeah, the Jinalai might still have the capacity to do what they were doing 250 years ago, but maybe they don't want to anymore. Maybe they don't want to help anyone that isn't Canthan, that isn't their direct brethren. Maybe that's what's going on there. With whatever the case is, I'm sure we'll see when the Cantha expansion comes out, if and when it comes out, and we'll see what's going on with them. But yeah, that's kind of the answer, and now we've got some different guys in charge doing it. You can hear characters talking about the Jinalai as you walk around, and that wasn't their only function, I suppose, in the universe. They also did the tournaments and stuff in Guild Wars 1, but now we start treading that weird line between what is lore and what is mechanics and who was doing what. So we'll just have to wait and see, but yeah, that's kind of the understanding of what's happened with the Jinalai. Is there something more to it, or did Arena just want to take something that's distinctly Canthan and cut it away now? Because don't forget, we're not just playing as humans in Guild Wars 2, we're playing as all races, and if the Canthans are so xenophobic, why would they want to provide this service to the Char and the Norn and the Asura and so forth? That's my take on it anyway. There you go, guys. That's the Great Guild Wars 2 countdown for today. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you can go off and enjoy the stress test if it is going on at the moment. And I will see you tomorrow for another day closer to the launch of Guild Wars 2. See you next time.